Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to show you 4 ways to make art journal backgrounds really quick and easy. First way, acrylic paints. This is just super cheap paint from the dollar store. Make sure it's matte. It works better. It won't stick your pages together. I would recommend picking 3 colors, contrasting or complementary, just whatever mood that you're in, and just let freedom go with this. Paint whatever you want. I'm painting stripes just to make it fill the page, but if you wanted to do big circles, you could do that. You could do horizontal stripes. The idea of 3 colors is I like it because it's not overwhelming. And when you're filling up your art journals, acrylic paints is a really fast and easy way to do this. And in between, I have wax paper so it doesn't bleed onto the other pages. It's always a good tip to do. Another tip is use a hair dryer or a heat gun to just gently dry your pages, and you can get a lot of pages done in a short time if you use a hair dryer. Using acrylic paints also is a great way to express what you might be feeling that day. And if you're doing a bunch of pages at the same time, try and do a bunch of different colors for your acrylic paint choices. And if you want to, you can just use one color and fill the whole page with one color or gradients of that one color. So it's a really fun way to cover a lot of white background. So when we start filling our journals, you'll feel really good about it. Next is rubber stamping and adding paper. So rubber stamping doesn't have to be expensive. You can buy rubber stamps at the dollar store. This is just a large background stamp that I'm using. And rubber stamp pads, ink pads don't need to be expensive either. You can get those at the dollar store, or you can go completely high end. I'm using one here from the Tim Holtz collection, which I really like. I just like the shades of ink that he has. That's more on the more expensive end. The archival ink that you see in the top corner there is another one of my favorites because it's permanent and you can use watercolor inks with that. This set of plants I got from the dollar store. I mean, how can you pass a cute set of rubber stamps up that are all plants from the dollar store for $1.50, I think? I'm using the archival black ink here because, like I said, I can paint watercolor paints or watercolor pencil crayons and it won't bleed the black ink. So I really like that option for stamp pads, and that's what I look for most of the time for stamp pads. I'm just randomly putting these. I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm thinking I'm just doing a row of plants just for something fun and something really contrasting to the background that I just did, because I want my book to be really different as I flip through it. And depending on my mood for when I'm wanting to journal on my page, I can decide what page I want to use. So on this page, maybe I wanted to do some more, soul searching, or maybe some outdoor thoughts or plant thoughts or something like that. So again, not thinking about it too much, just adding something to the page. So when I come back to it with my journaling, my sayings, or just doodles, it's not a blank page and it's not overwhelming. So whatever stamps that you might have, try stamping some on your page. Going off the page is always a great idea with stamping as well. And then the next thing I wanted to do here was add some paper. And the first paper I didn't like, so I picked another paper because I thought this suited the theme of plants better. Lots of leaves and little flowers in there. And with this is scrapbooking paper. It's double-sided. I'm just using the one side, ripped it so it looked a little bit more rustic, and just using a glue stick to glue this down. And you can trim the edges if anything hangs over after the fact. So glue sticks are really my go-to glue, like I mentioned before. And your art supplies don't define you. Like, use what you have. Like, this is supposed to be a fun journal. And if you really get into it, then step up your supplies. But when you first start, just use what you have. That turned out well. Next, I'm doing stencils, dry brush, and paint pens. So I'm going in and I'm using not so much water as I did before with the acrylic paints. This is, again, this cheap acrylic paints from the dollar store. Using more of a dry brush technique and not filling in the whole page, so leaving some white space. And this gives more opportunity to add things later on. I used a cutout piece of circle, just a paper, and I'm using that as a stencil. A really inexpensive way to add some dimensions to your page. Just find things that you can use to create stencils and shadows with. random painting here. I'm not giving any of this thought. I'm just trying to cover the page. So when I come back to it, again, it's not a white space intimidating. And I do like that coloring page with the owl and the tree. So I'm not going to cover that completely. That's why I like the dry brush technique. Next, I'm using Stencils. So this is a makeup pad from the dollar store, makeup sponge, I guess, and using a stencil. I like to do stencils on both sides, but again, it can be just completely random what you're thinking that you want the stencils to be. Next, I'm using a water bottle top for another idea for a stencil. So if you don't have any actual stencils, you don't feel like creating any out of paper, use what you have and use these as little stamps. I'm called it a stencil, but it's more like a stamp. The top of the water bottle didn't work so much, but using the other side works better. But it still gives a really nice effect to your page, and again, shows that you can use a lot of things really inexpensively that you would have around the house. So go through your recycle bin, see what you can find as different size items, and get those on your page. You'll get your fingers messy. You could put some ink on a page and stamp it like a stamp pad. That would work as well. Or you could stamp it directly into a stamp pad if you wanted to do that. So adding some more yellow paint to the page, again, using very dry brush, so not dipping it in water, and really lightly touching the page gives it a really different feel to that first page that I did with the 3 colors of acrylic paint. And it will show the background as well, so I'm not covering up the complete owl coloring book page. So when you're going through this, again, about 3 colors is nice. If you want to add more, feel free, of course. This is all about you and your journal and what you're feeling like at the time when you're painting. If you only have 1 color of paint, you do 1 color of paint. And if you want, you can actually add more texture and detail with using a paint pen. So this is a Posca paint pen, and you can find these at art supply stores or on Amazon. And I'm just randomly adding texture designs to the page, little drawings, nothing too technical. Anyone can draw lines, and that's why I'm doing it, because I'm just an anyone. But it adds something, and I like the color red because it just is really contrasting to what else is going on. I'm adding a pink little corner piece to each of those, and looking at this page, it gives a lot of variety for doing something later when I'm adding more of my wording to it. Going back, I'm adding a bit more stencil design, just adding, again, some more depth to the page. This is a stencil. I get a lot of my stencils from art supply stores, but a great place to look is Temu or AliExpress. Their stencils are very good and very, very inexpensive compared to the art supply stores. You can also get a lot of great stencils at the dollar store now. And so I would recommend you checking out Dollar Tree or Dollarama if you have one in your area. This stencil I got from Temu. Actually, I was really happy with it. It has a silhouette of a woman and looks like some branches and clouds. So it's really abstract. It came in a set of 3, and I'll be doing more of the stenciling to show you my other stencils that I got in this set later on in another video, but I'm really happy with that. So check out Temu for stencils. My last suggestion is Collage. And Collage, I'm just ripping out of an old dictionary. So I recommend going down to your secondhand store or your library book sale and grabbing an old dictionary. You can use old dictionaries for so many things. You can look up specific words, sayings, well, not sayings, but what definitions for words, and use that in a variety of different ways. In this case, I'm using matte medium as a glue. And if you don't have matte medium, that's fine. Just use plain white glue and water it down a little bit. It will give the same effect. It might wrinkle the pages a little bit more, but that's okay. This is an art journal, and it's all supposed to be all good and fun. And I'm literally painting the page with this matte medium glue, and then adding the pages down and then painting over the pages. Once again, I'm not thinking about anything here. I'm just putting it down. If I overthink it, I would be looking at what direction I want the pages to go. What words do I want showing? And I didn't want to overthink it. Whatever is showing is going to show. But of course, if you wanted specific words to be highlighted on your page and specific orientation of the page, then make sure that you do that. Like, there's no right or wrong on this. Just have fun with it. If you don't have a dictionary, you could use an old magazine, you could use newspaper, you could use old comic books. You can often find old cheap comic books at secondhand stores too, and comic books add a lot of color to a page instantly and give a really nice background. Old children's books are also another idea. But yeah, magazines are a great one. And when you paint with the over top or glue over top with a magazine, it provides with the matte medium a matte effect. So it's not as shiny anymore. But sometimes magazines are coming more matte effect anyway. With this, all I recommend is to cover the whole page. It gives a really great effect. Again, no right or wrong. If you really wanted to leave out a center part or something else, then do that. And this page, for some reason, all these pages were ripping quite squarely, which was odd. It must be that just how the paper was in the dictionary. But I'm overlapping the edges, if you can tell. And with that, I'm going to be trimming it later. So you're going to see the finished effect. Overlapping just allows me not to think about borders too much, and I can just fill the whole page a lot easier and not worry about my rip size and everything like that. And if you wanted to, you can mix dictionary pages with newspapers, with old magazines, with comic books. This is just a really fast way of filling up 2 pages. And I'm usually filling up 2 pages, as you can tell here, but you don't have to do that. If you wanted to do one page one way, one page another way, then do that. Or if you want to do one page full and then leave a page for your actual journaling, and you could do some lines if you wanted to do lined writing, then do that as well. The options are endless. Again, this is all about what you're feeling like and what you want to have your art journal look like. So I'm really excited for you guys to figure out what you want to do for backgrounds. Fill your book up, and we'll be back with the next stage, and that's filling the pages with some ideas of what you might want to art journal. There it is, trimmed. Looks awesome. So get creative. Go have some fun.